In this video with the guys in Kansas, we talk about their love for the band Yes. And Tom Brislin, for instance, played with the Yes Boys, their keyboard player. Whenever you talk to a prog band, it's not uncommon for another prog band, usually like Yes or Genesis, they come up in conversation. That's on the way on Rocky Stream Music. The top 10 selling Kansas albums as of this recording. Vinyl Confessions was released in 1982 and so far has sold over 200,000 copies. Song for America, released in 1975 just before their breakthrough, 500,000 copies. Mask was also released in 1975 and sold the same amount. In 1980, Kansas released Audio Visions, the self-titled Kansas album from 1974, Monolith from 1979. Their live album, Two for the Show, is from 78, selling 1 million copies. The Best of Kansas came out in 1984, 4 million copies. Left Overture, 1976, and the big breakthrough, 4.1 million copies. And around the same amount for Point of No Return from 1977 with Dust in the Wind. I think part of the reason that I liked Kansas as much as I liked Yes, but I think that there's a part, and Genesis too, there is that kind of cerebral journey that the music kind of takes you in spite of yourself sometimes. But for you, what was it about Yes that grabbed you?
Oh God, exactly what you just said. That cerebral flow. Close to the edge. It's funny, when I met my bandmates, Chaser, back in 1982, one of the first songs that I learned was Siberian Khatru. And I'm like, this is pretty intense stuff. This is intense stuff. And it's just, I just got wrapped up in Yes stuff big time. And then I went from my band Chaser that did a lot of Yes. I went to a band that did all Yes. We did Close to the Edge, the entire song. We did, Starship Trooper, Yours Is No Disgrace, and it's so funny. I remember playing, when we would play with other bands, when you had a set list of Yes music and you were playing for an hour, you'd have like 6 songs, because they're all 6, 7, 8, 9 minute long songs. And I would look at the other band's set list and there'd be like 24 songs on their set list. And I'm like, that's strange. And I'm like, oh, well, those songs are only 3-minute long songs, and here we're playing these, Starship Trooper, these 9-minute epics, it was funny.
I always say I would never have picked Jon Anderson for that band, and I would have been wrong. I'm more of like your type of singer. I like the powers. That's to me the type of singer, if I could sing, I'd want to be. That's why I like Brad Depp. That's why I like Steve Perry. But for you, what was it about Jon? Why did that guy with this certain type of voice fit in that band so well?
Again, it's like Geddy Lee and Rush. It's that he has that unique characterization that over time, has become the identity of that band. And I'll tell you, I think it was 78 or 79. I saw Yes in the round at the International Amphitheater in Chicago. And Jon Anderson was singing, and his voice was angelic. I never heard such highs in that voicing. So, just clear, extreme highs. And I'm just like, is he singing falsetto? Is he not singing falsetto? It's kind of hard. He has that unique timbre in his voice that, usually when guys go into a falsetto, you identify it immediately. I'm one of those guys. When I go into a falsetto, and I very, very rarely do anything falsetto. I'm the power tenor type. And but for Jon Anderson and uh to just have those highs and that intensity, man, it grabbed me. It just grabbed me, and I was a Yes fan from that point on.
Uh,
Not to mention Steve Howe, one of my
oh,
favorite guitar players of all time.
how did you get the Yes gig? So many people ask me to ask you that.
I was Meatloaf's pianist from late '98 into 2001, and last work that I did with him was a studio album called Couldn't Have Said It Better. And around that time we were making the album, Yes had heard about me through my working with Meatloaf. They had the same management at the time, so it was more possible for people internally to say, well, check this guy out. Because you know how they're always wanting to get Rick Wakeman back, and he was on a tour of his own that year in 2001 playing big venues. And so they knew that they had a chance of getting him back the following year in '02. And I think the wheels turned internally saying, okay, well, let's use an orchestra instead of a keyboardist. That was the first idea. And then I guess that idea didn't hold very long. And then it was, well, let's use an orchestra and have a keyboardist in the orchestra to play some piano and organ. And then that was an idea that was on the table. And then Jon Anderson calls me and we're talking and he's like, I'm not going to do the voice, but I'm going to say he wanted everything. He said, I want every keyboard sound that you've ever heard on these Yes albums. And I hear that you sing too. So we want you to do backing vocals, which isn't usually a responsibility of a keyboardist of Yes. And I really loved that because I got to double Chris Squire on a lot of backing vocals, and there is nothing like it. There was nothing like it, that sound. And also when John sang, to be singing with John and Chris, like that was some of my favorite vocal combination in rock ever. And to just be jumping in there was almost as exciting as playing the keys for me. So they sent me a live recording and said, all right, we want you to play keyboards on 2 songs, record it, send it back to us. And of course, the 2 songs were Close to the Edge and Gates of Delirium, nearly 40 minutes of music. But it makes a lot of sense because if you go for the jugular and you figure if this kid can handle that stuff, then we should be in good shape for the rest of the show. And so I did what I could do, sent them the CD, and they said, all right, come visit us. We want to talk with you. And I was already in California doing the album with Meatloaf. So after that was done, I met them. I think they were recording Magnification album at one of Trevor Horn's houses. I think they had a mobile rig in there, and it was very pleasant atmosphere. They were just like creating music, writing songs, hanging out, making dinner. It was a very homey vibe. And I showed up, and they didn't know what to make of me. They looked a lot younger. And they're like, this kid's going to play Yes music. And then when I started talking to them, they realized that I was a big enthusiast of Yes music and that I would take care of business. And then they heard the CD. So that was good too. So then I got the shot, but they said, well, you're going to be on for this year. And then Rick's coming back next year. So it was a predetermined amount of time that I would be part of this. Because of that, I think also they didn't really want to assert my personality. They didn't put me in the tour book, the program that you could buy. I'm not in there. I'm listed on the DVD of Symphonic Live as additional musicians, plural, and there's just me. But thankfully, retroactively, the guys in the band have sort of christened me an official Yes band member if you look at Yes World. And I still have a good relationship with those guys. And when I saw them on Cruise to the Edge in 2019, right after that cruise, I was playing with The Sea Within. I was going to jump on another cruise ship and begin my tenure with Kansas. All the Yes guys were super excited about it for me. They were really happy to see that I was becoming part of this group. So that was nice to get that encouragement from them as well.
Any prog albums that stand out from your past?
Okay, definitely Close to the Edge by Yes. That's the first one that comes to mind. Would Mahavishnu count as a prog, or is that
Yeah,
fusion?
yeah. Well, they influence so much prog, right?
Birds of Fire or Visions of the Emerald Beyond, I would say. Actually, I'm actually a huge Spock's Beard fan. So I would say maybe V by Spock's Beard or Snow. Those two albums. Either of those.
Cool. Well,
masterpieces.
Emmanuel asks, who in Yes did you feel the greatest rapport with?
It varied from scenario to scenario. For instance, I was talking about Chris Squire in the vocal department. He really wanted to get with me and to bring those lush harmonies to life. So we had a bond there, and he would also interact with me on stage the most. He would come up to me, and we'd jam out together during ritual or something like that. And so that was a great rapport. Post Yes, I would say I been in the most contact with Jon Anderson. We've worked together on a few other projects, including the Anderson Stolt album in 2015. And so, and I've always tried to see him or any of the Yes guys when they're in town. So it was always good. It's always good to see everybody. I have good conversations with Steve Howe or Alan White, and even the people in the band that I didn't play with, like Billy Sherwood or Jeff Downs. It's a good environment. And I did even interview Rick Wakeman for Keyboard Magazine the following year after I did Yes Symphonic. So it's been really cool to get to know these guys even off stage and just talk music or talk whatever.
Two big families, Kansas. How about Rite of Passage? You've made it. Again, I'll say it, to be able to go into the room and get it done with such iconic music and band members and know the guys. They know you. They know who you are. You're part of the family. That's nice.
Yeah, and what I love about Kansas, among other things, is that they want to play. Like, given their druthers, Phil would pick up a pair of drumsticks and play drums right now. Richard wants to play guitar. He loves doing it. So why would they stop? And why not start creating new music or bringing in people like Zach, Ronnie, myself, or Billy, who write music and want to create to the band. And I know that Dave Ragsdale loves playing new material as well. So that's a real cool part of it. And when we have our rehearsals, and sometimes we just start throwing out random songs by whoever. We'll jam on a Procol Harum.
Oh, is that right?
Or Spencer Davis, just a little bit, or I'll surprise Richard with, my love of the Ventures or something like that, and it's just, everyone wants to play, and that's what it's about, really. So I feel really good about that.
You're still doing what you were doing when you were a kid. You're still in that vein. You're still wanting to, like, what happens if I touch this? What happens if I play with this guy? That's all that excitement of experimenting and wanting to do it. And just like you said, playing.
Yeah. And to not forget about that childlike wonder.
Yeah.
Is important, because anything can get to be old hat if you do it too much and if you just go through the motions enough times. But if you just remind yourself of what it was like when you got your first guitar, first keyboard, first set of drums, and what it felt like when you played your first gig or things like that, and you still want to develop and grow as a musician, but never forget that excitement that you had. And even on a deeper level, one of my favorite jazz pianists, Bill Evans, once said that, you become an expert, I'm paraphrasing, but you become an expert at something, but then you have to step back and observe it with the naivete that a child might possess, because you want to sort of listen with an innocent ear. And I think that goes for the music and also for a career in music, because, when I was 19, I was saying yes to every gig that came my way. Playing lounge piano, yeah, do it. Playing church, yeah, do it. Playing a wedding band, yeah, okay, I'm on the gig. And then I'm on the break and I'm in the car listening to radio trying to figure out new songs. It was just like this insatiable appetite. And I was thinking that, okay, some of the musicians that I would play with on the weddings and stuff were older and seasoned and sometimes embittered, because maybe their rock dreams didn't come true. But it was saw it in a way. I was like, all right, well, I don't want to be that guy who's just tired of it all. And you have to psych yourself out sometimes. You have to remind yourself, okay, even though I've played this song 1,000 times, like you ever see those videos on PBS where they show a parade of these classic artists doing their one hit?
Yeah, of course.
And you got to think, wow, they some of them do such an amazing job. And then I started thinking, wow, that artist has sang that song over and over and over again for decades, and yet you still just see them in a vacuum in one performance, and it looks like they're giving it their all. That's professionalism. And you have to generate that in yourself, but also remember what it means to people. Remember how you felt when you first got into it. And so there's a little bit of psyching out yourself sometimes has to be done, but I think that's the way to keep it fresh over the long term.
Yeah, well said about the PBS. I just talked to Bobby Rydell, who sang Volare, in 1960, the year I was born. And I tracked him down because I remember going, oh, I love that song. And his version of it, it became such a big hit. And I asked him the same question. He says, the second you're on your downward spiral, he says, I'm old. I should be dead. I drank too much. He said, very transparent. But he said, the second you don't do that, you're on your way out. He said, that's how he looks at it. He says, you gotta perform it the way you perform it.
Yeah, if I can add just something
go
to
ahead,
that.
please.
You make a good point about talking about like people on the trajectory of careers, and every band has a different flow chart, right, or graph that shows when they were peaking and when they went into the dark days and when they made their comeback or whatever. But there's no set rule anymore, especially the recorded music industry has been just turned completely upside down. So in some ways that's rough on us because records aren't the big money makers they used to be. But on the other hand, there are no precedents for what can happen, that a band like Kansas gets in the top 10, or we're on the #1 rock album in Sweden, in a whole country's rock chart, and so there are no rules or saying, okay, this is a band that had their time and now they're just going to play their greatest hits concerts and that's that. No, we're writing new chapters because we can, and we can just write our own script on how the Kansas story plays out.
Yeah, well put. By the way, Tom Brislin, who's now in Kansas, as you know,
Tom,
he said we just talked to him last week, and I thought to myself, this is turning into the Jon Anderson Appreciation Society. He just loves you.
He's a great guy, Tom. He came in at the right time when Rick was over there, and then just we'd had a crazy Russian guy for about a year, and he sort of exploded emotionally or something, and he was brilliant. Igor Stravinsky. He was called Igor Korachev, and he called himself Igor when I first met him. And I said, Igor, and he said, yes, I'm Igor Korachev. And I'd heard him play, and his left arm was so brilliant. Man, he was good. And I said, why do you call yourself Igor? He said, I don't like Igor. But Igor Stravinsky, what's the matter with you? And he went, oh yeah. So it became Igor Stravinsky.
Oh God. Did Geddy Lee
Igor Korachev. But then we had Tom Brislin came in, and we did a tour with a great tour with the orchestra as well. And that was with the Polish orchestra, young people. And that was brilliant because, we were playing, I think it was Ritual and Close to the Edge. We're doing long pieces of music. We got them orchestrated. And it was real fun because, you walk into a rehearsal place with these teenagers orchestra, and they're kind of looking at us, and maybe nobody had ever heard of our music so much. But you could tell they were kind of like, oh, okay, we're looking at the music and everything. It's a bit complicated. What are we doing, But as soon as we started playing, they lit up. And these young people just loved Yes music. They adored it. We went to Russia, all over Europe. And we came and played in I don't think we played in America. What we did in America, we had a pickup orchestra, which is the best because they want to play. Where you would play with the Atlanta Symphony, and it's like, oh, okay, let's get on with this. You know, you can feel that vibe, like they don't really want to do this. You can tell.
Did your parents get you as a musician? Did they get it?
They eventually got it. I think for a couple reasons. That I was not I was only good in school at things that I cared about. If you know, for some reason I didn't care about it. I was good at math, but I was decent at history. I was really good at in geology, and you know, to some parts of science. But the things I didn't care about, I did terrible in, and went on to college only to stay out of the real life and the workforce. My dad ran Rudder truck rental, and of course, he wanted me to follow in his footsteps, which I had no desire or aptitude for at all. That would have just sounded like a living hell. I just wanted being a guy playing in a band and having fun with my friends. And they were terrified that I was just going to wind up achieving nothing. They both got to live long enough to see, you know, well past leftovers, your point of return and all that, to become very proud of me.
Did they see you guys live?
Yeah, they came out and saw it. And my mother was British, and she used to take clippings of the Beatles and stuff. So I think she got it more than Dad did. But Dad, in his own way, I mean, he used to embarrass me all the time. You know, we'd be going in a grocery store to buy stuff, and he'd go into this checkout line, and my dad would go to just a younger checkout girl, go, "Do you know who this guy is here?" Oh God, Dad!
No way!
No, please shut up! Please shut up! You ever heard of the band Kansas? Well, yeah. Well, here's a guitar player. I mean, just Dad, don't do that.
I do that now.
And now Debbie just walked in.
Oh my God!
And now funny. She does it because I usually won't divulge. and then Debbie consents when it's inevitable that we're going to go there, so get it over with.
Oh my God! Hope you enjoyed that. I'm John Bowden. Remember, if you want to donate to the channel, there's a PayPal link in the description. You can also join our Patreon, get early access to all our videos. Comment on our videos, subscribe to our channel, share our videos, and like them. I'm John Bowden. This is Rock History Music. Take care.